Do I have a few minutes to run to the restroom? Oh, so.
Yes. And I said yes, I'm not for live stream.
Just read that one draft.
We had a second to use the restroom.
Yes.
It's the first.
We have one dead mic, so this is going to be Bill.
State your witness who's going to need the interpreter. Is that your first witness?
First and second.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then, I don't know, do you already have a chair up here, how you want to sit? That way you won't have to stand.
There's no chair. Yeah,
All right, we can get another chair for you.
yeah, that would be great if I could sit right behind the witness.
Yes.
That would be awesome.
Different piece of paper. She has a motion to enter adjudication. She has 2 armed robberies that she's in jail on $75,000 bonds each.
Have you conferred with the state I will talk about?
I have conferred with Marcus. He's sort of involved in other things right now, but I told him I was going to approach. I would ask for a $1,000 or $2,000 bond since she's got 275,000. She's
Okay, what is the previous?
and I don't have that. I mean, wait, maybe I do. Maybe I do. It's right here.
So if you do that, you can get me another sheet.
She has had an $8,500 bond.
All right, so do this for me. Norma's on Zoom right now with the other.
I know,
Let's
we know.
just see if they can agree on the bond. Just tell Norma to put it out and never see if they can agree on the bond. And then
Okay.
just bring me back the details.
Okay, that's what this is, right?
Yes,
Okay.
without your writing.
Okay, and then it's in.
Because John, I need to know who the other people in the other cases are in case someone wants to do a no contact order in the.
And I do know the answer to that, Your Honor, Jackie Walsh.
Okay. Yes.
And then whenever you edit it, would it just be like
All right.
by the attorney
As
you
a-
interpreted, or like the byline, or no? I see. Okay. So it's in there. Okay. So there's nothing else.
Well, I think you usually.
Anyone who's in the.
Mhm.
not in the-
On the appearance page?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would put her at.
Okay.
But yeah, so it would just be cute. She's talking about what she's talking about.
Okay. Mhm. Okay. Mhm. Good, 'cause that's what you're saying.
Okay.
Okay.
Exhibit stickers.
Okay.
One page.
Oh.
Okay, thank you so much. These are numbers or letters? Numbers.
Is everyone here? Is the person here who doesn't speak English? Next, the next one. So we can put that on the record about the English. All right, everyone, we're gonna bring in the juror who doesn't speak English.
So this is sort of an
All right, we can bring her up. All right, Mr. Young, we're on the record. John, we're on the record. Maybe we could take this off of mute. Hello. All right, the court is calling 2019 CR 11721, State of Texas versus ROLAND HUERTA. Do I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Marcus Sanders.
For the
Rick
defense?
Ramos for the defense.
All right. Hello. Hi. There's nothing to be afraid of or be shy about. You're the alternate. All right, and my understanding is that English is not your first language?
No,
All right, what is your first language?
Hindi.
Okay. So have you been able to understand everything that has been, that the state and defense have been speaking about?
I understand it a bit, but not proper.
All right, state,
Judge, we have no objections to the juror being excused.
No objections from the defense, Your Honor.
so thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for your service. We're going to excuse you. But before you go, could you say something for me in Hindi? We are off the record, Brenda. I always love listening to different languages.
Shukriya.
Okay,
Thank
what? Oh, okay, say that again.
Shukriya. Shukriya.
Shukriya.
Shukriya. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Now I know something other than yellow. Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Shukriya. All right, so everyone, my understanding is there's one juror that we're waiting on. And so that juror was the alternate. And we're just waiting for the other juror.
Okay, and Judge, there's, I guess, 2 things we need to put on the record, and then 1 thing that we want to put on the record outside of the process.
All right, so what do you need to put on the record inside the presence of the court?
First, I wanted to reiterate our motion to eliminate regarding the citizenship status of our witnesses, as well as any criminal history. The second thing was to invoke the rule.
All right, the rule will be invoked. Defense with regards to any criminal history or citizenship status. Before you question about that, you'll need to approach.
Yes, ma'am, and I just want to make sure our motion limit is still in effect as well. in regards
Yes.
to the defendants.
Motions and limites are still in effect.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, and then you said there was something outside the presence.
Yes, Judge.
All right, so we're gonna stop video. And if you can mute, please. Oh, no, please have a seat. We're standing for you all. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I know you took an oath downstairs, but I'm going to give you another oath that's related to this case. So if everyone can please raise your right hand. Do you and each of you solemnly swear or affirm in the case of the state of Texas versus ROLAND HUERTA, you will a true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God? All right, thank you. All right, you can lower your hand. All right, I hope everyone had a easy time finding parking space. My understanding, that's always difficult. I always tell people that. And I understand that there was some traffic accidents. There's always a traffic accident in the morning. And for some reason, people always do construction during rush hour traffic. So thank you all for being here. All right, state. And Mr. HUERTA, if you could rise, please.
In the name and by authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Bexar County, state of Texas, duly organized and paneled and sworn as such at the September term AD 2019 of the 290th Judicial District Court of said county in said court at said term, do present in and to said court that in the county and state aforesaid and anterior to the presentment of this indictment. On or about the 5th day of March 2018, ROLAND HUERTA, hereinafter referred to as defendant, did use and exhibit a deadly weapon, namely a chainsaw, that in the manner of its use and intended use was capable of causing death and serious bodily injury. And defendant did intentionally and knowingly threaten imminent bodily injury to Rigoberto Archila Valle, hereinafter referred to as complainant, by pointing said deadly weapon at and in the direction of the complainant and swinging said deadly weapon at and in the direction of the complainant against the peace and dignity of the state.
And that's signed by the foreman of the grand jury.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, to that, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No guilty, Your Honor.
All right, state, are you prepared for opening statements?
Yes, Judge.
All right, state, you may proceed. You may have a seat. Yes.
Thank you all for being here today. Life is all about choices. Choices have consequences. Over the course of today's trial and the rest of the week, you're going to hear about choices that are definitive. This happened a while back on March 5th, 2018. It happened at 25602 Bridal Trail. That's up north, outside of the heading for Leon Valley. So within Bexar County, you're going to hear from a couple of brothers, Manuel and Rigoberto Archila Valle. You're going to hear that they used to work for the defendant, ROLAND HUERTA. He had a landscaping business, and they wanted to go out on their own thing. So that's what they did. Manuel started a business. His brother came to work for him. At 25602 Bridal Trail, there was a homeowner who needed some landscaping done. So he put out a notice that he wanted to hire someone. ROLAND made a bid on the job. Manuel made a lower bid, so they ended up getting the job. So on this day, March 5th, 2018, ROLAND, Manuel, they're there doing the work when, Manuel and Rigoberto, they're there doing the work. When ROLAND, who has another job not too far, the same street, he notices him there, and he comes over and confronts him. He's very angry. He confronts Rigoberto. He's like, "How could you do this to me? You stole the job from me," and he's just yelling at him. He leaves. Manuel wasn't around for that part, but later on, the defendant comes back in the afternoon around 4:30. This time Manuel's there, Rigoberto's there. ROLAND comes up and he's like, he sees the tool there. He's like, "That's my tool," and he tries to take it. Rigoberto takes it back from him. He's like, "No, that's mine. My brother bought it." So they fight over the tool. They end the fight over that. ROLAND picks up a chainsaw that's nearby. He tries to turn it on, turns it on, and he says he's going to cut Rigoberto.
Now, fortunately, the brake was on and he wasn't able to get the motor running, but he started it up. And he's cleaning it up and saying he's gonna cut it. So they're fighting over the chainsaw at this point. Manuel sees this, he comes in, he gets in between them and he turns it off. You're gonna hear that he split them up, that Roland then threw some punches at the victim, Rigoberto. And then they told him they were calling the police, Manuel did. And so Roland takes off running and goes back to his job. You're gonna hear that 2 deputies arrived, Deputy Rutherford and Deputy Villanueva, Villarreal, that the brothers had proof, they showed them a receipt that they had purchased that tool, that tool, rightfully their tool. They go, the deputy goes and speaks to the defendant, and he gives a version that says that he was attacked. I expect that that's gonna be the defense somehow, that they're saying that somehow Roland was attacked by the brothers. But you're gonna see, based on the evidence, the testimony, the photos, the deputies, everything, that just doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up with the evidence that is there. And so at the end of this trial, I'm gonna ask that you find Roland Worthing guilty of aggravated assault with death.
Defense? Yes.
An incomplete investigation equals questions unanswered. You today are going to get to see for yourselves what the best evidence is the state has. After all these years, the best investigation that they can put together, the best evidence that they could gather for you in order to prove their case. And they told you a story that they think they're going to be able to prove today. We think that you're going to hear a different story. Yes, you're going to hear a story that these gentlemen worked for Mr. Huerta. Yes, you're going to hear a story of how they undercut him. And they went to a job that they knew Roland was applying for while one of the brothers was working for him and gave a lower bid, knowing the bid that Roland had. Yes, you're going to hear that they had spoken before and that Roland fired his employee earlier that day. After not showing up for work, after not calling him and telling him what was going on, after having no idea that he had taken this job from him. Later on, you're going to hear in that day that there was some contention about a poll, an honest mistake between the two gentlemen. And you're going to hear the story behind it. But where the story's going to change to be what happened with the chainsaw. The devil's in the details. I know you guys are going to get tired. It's human nature. Pay attention to the details when the story comes. That's what's going to tell you the truth. The state just told you right now the motor wasn't able to start running. Pay attention to the evidence. I show different. Pay attention to the little things. That's what's going to tell you what truly happened. And if you can't figure it out at the end of it, and after we hear from the state's best witnesses in the investigation that was completed or lack of, we're going to find out today what was done. And we still have questions that have not been answered. The only verdict we can come to at the end is not guilty.
All right, state, call your first witness.
The state calls Rigoberto Archilavalle.
All right, and we have an interpreter here. If the interpreter, if you could raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear and affirm you will faithfully translate from English into Spanish and from Spanish into English, so help you God?
I do, Your Honor.
And if could you state your name for the record, please?
Mariana Rios.
All right. All right, and if the witness will have a seat, please. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to ensure that the jury, the court, and the parties are all receiving the same testimony, whenever a party or a witness informs the court that they do not speak English, the services of an interpreter will be employed. We have an interpreter here. You are instructed that you, as the juror, are to base your deliberations on the questions as they come from the attorneys in the English language. and the responses from the witness as they come from the interpreter in the English language. Does everyone understand? All right, could you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to testify that you will, to the best, I'm sorry, just one moment. I'm getting feedback from you, so it's throwing me off a little bit. I'm sorry. All right, could you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you could lower your hand, please. And could you state your name for the record?
Rigoberto Archila Valle.
All right, state.
Thank you, Judge. Roberto, do you live here in Bexar County?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I work for my brother.
Okay, what kind of business does your brother have?
He does everything. Sometimes it's landscaping, sometimes it's construction.
What's your brother's name?
Manuel Enrique Archila Valle.
And how long have you worked for your brother?
It's been already almost 2 years, a little more than 2 years.
Okay. Have you worked for anyone else doing construction or landscaping?
After my brother, no. I only work for the gentleman here, Rolando.
Okay, and so what's Rolando's full name?
No, I only know him by Rolando Huerta.
Okay, and do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Can you point to him and identify an article of clothing?
He has a tie and he has a vest.
What color is his tie?
I don't know if it's blue or blue with stripes.
Okay. Are you identifying the gentleman in the middle of the three?
Yes.
Okay, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant. How long did you work for Roland?
A little over 2 years.
What did you do for him?
We would cut and trim trees.
How did you come to stop working for Roland and start working for his brother?
Fue porque a veces él nos hacía trabajar hasta ya muy tarde y nos decía que si nos íbamos no nos iba a pagar.
Well, it was because some,
I'm sorry. All right, could you repeat the question, please?
How did you come to stop working for Roland and to start working for your brother?
Fue por el debido caso, motivo que debido a las ocasiones él nos hacía trabajar hasta muy tarde, entonces fuimos decidiendo con mi hermano a empezar a comprar herramientas y entonces ya primero se salió él y ya después me salí.
well, it is because, well, the case, the reason it was because he would make us work, way too late. And so we both decided to start buying our own tools. And so then he left first and then I left.
Okay. And so do you remember an incident, an offense happening on March 5th of 2018?
Yes.
Was that 25602 Grotto Trail?
Yes.
Okay. What were you doing at that address?
Estábamos trabajando para un cliente de mi hermano.
We were working for a client of my brother's.
What kind of work were you doing?
Era lo mismo, limpiando mujer.
It was the same thing, cleaning some trees.
At some point while you were working that day, did you have an encounter with Roland Huerta?
Sí, él llegó por la mañana y me dijo que por qué le estábamos quitando los clientes.
Yes, he got there in the morning and he asked why were we taking his clients away?
Was he angry at that time?
Sí, estaba enojado y me dijo que la herramienta que andábamos también se la habíamos robado. Y ya cuando se iba a ir me dijo que yo iba a pagar por eso.
Well, yes, he was upset, he was mad. He told me that the tool we had stolen it. And as he was leaving, he said that we were gonna pay for it.
What tool was he talking about?
Todas las que usamos, los serruchos, la posta de pintar,
Everything that we use, like the saws and the painting posts.
Have you stolen any tools from Roland?
no.
No, at all, not at all.
Okay, so how did that conversation end?
Es que había una cerca, entonces nomás la tomó con las manos y luego la quiso mover como queriéndola quitar para entrar, pero no entró. Luego se fue.
Well, there was a fence, so he grabbed it and he was like moving it in order to try to go in. He couldn't do it, so he left.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Let me show you some photos that are marked as State's Exhibit 1 through 5. Can you look at them and tell me if you recognize them?
Yes. Yes. Yes, all of them. Yes.
Aquí exactamente donde pasó.
Yes, this is exactly where, where it happened.
Okay, are they fair and accurate depictions of 25602 Rado Trail on March 5th, 2018?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, we offer State's Exhibits 1 through 5.
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibits 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are admitted without objection.
Your Honor, may I show them to the jury?
Yes.
State's Exhibit 1. Oh, sorry, State's Exhibit 1, is that the address where y'all were doing work that day?
Yes.
And is that the same as State's Exhibit 2?
Yes.
What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 3?
Esa es la troca de mi hermano y una trailerita pequeña que había comprado que era donde estábamos echando las ramas.
That's my brother's truck and a small trailer that we purchased where we were throwing out all the branches.
And is that the same thing as State's Exhibit 4?
Esa ya es la que se ve, ya es una trailer que tenía el cliente donde estábamos trabajando.
That what you see over there is a trailer that the client had over where we were working at.
And so you said Roland left that morning, he walked away, right?
Sí, en la mañana.
Yes, in the morning he left.
At some point, did he come back to the address where y'all were working?
Y ya fue por la tarde cuando mi hermano llegó de Home Depot de comprar una herramienta.
Yes, that was already in the afternoon when my brother came back from Home Depot from buying a tool.
And sorry, I forgot to ask, did you know that Roland was in the area before you saw him that morning?
Sí, sí, ya lo he visto, estaba trabajando en el trabajo donde yo yo mismo había estado trabajando para él.
Yes, I saw him that he was working over at the same place where I had been working for him before.
Okay. Did he see you?
No, él no me visto, él creo que escuchó que yo estaba trabajando fue cuando él llegó en la mañana.
No, he didn't see me. I think he heard me that I was working when he got there in the morning.
At any point did you, I guess, invite Roland to come over to the address you were working at?
No.
And so you said he came back again. Was that in the afternoon?
Sí, en la tarde, sí.
Yes, in the afternoon, yes.
Was your brother there?
Sí.
Yes.
When he came back in the afternoon, what was the reason?
Lo primero que hizo cuando regresó fue que agarró la herramienta que mi hermano había llevado y le dijo que era que se la habíamos robado.
Well, the first thing he did when he returned is to grab the tool that my brother had taken and say that we had stolen it.
And again, had you stolen a tool from Roland Huerta?
No, cuando él le dijo a mi hermano que él se la había robado, mi hermano le mostró el recibo que lo acaba de llevar de Rosita.
No, when he told my brother that we had stolen it, my brother showed him the receipt from Home Depot.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness again?
Yes.
I'm going to show you exhibits 6 through 15. When you look at them all and tell me if you recognize them.
Yes, this is where we were working at.
Esta es la trailer del cliente.
This is the client's trailer.
Esta es donde le pegó el serrucho en la puerta de vidrio, donde se estilló, donde pegó la cadena.
This is where the saw hit the glass, the chain hit it and it broke it.
And we'll come back to that. What number is that?
La 8.
8.
Okay.
Y esta es el serrucho.
And this is the chainsaw.
Is that number 9?
La número 9.
Sí.
Yes.
Este también es el serrucho. Creo que lo están viendo.
This is the same thing. The saw, I don't know if they were measuring it. I don't know.
Okay, that's 10.
Eso es la número 10. Yes.
Este es el serrucho. La 11.
And number 11 is the complete chainsaw.
Y esta es la misma la puerta que se rompió con el serrucho.
And this is the same door that broke with the saw.
And 13.
En la 13.
La 10.
The 10.
Y la 13 es la área para donde estamos trabajando. Bueno,
And 13 is basically the area where we were working at, towards the back.
y la 14 es la herramienta que mi hermano le había robado.
And 14 is the tool that he said my brother had stolen from him.
Él es el señor Rolando.
And this is Mr. Rolando.
And 15.
En la 15.
Ah,
Yes.
And are they all fair and accurate depictions from March 5th, 2018?
Yes.
And at this time, we offer 6 exhibits 6 through 15.
Our only objection, Your Honor, is going to be to State's Exhibit 10. I believe the witness testified he wasn't sure what was being photographed. I think that would be more appropriate for the officer to
All
testify.
right, may I see State's Exhibit number 10, please?
Well, it looks like it might be 12 also. It's 12, right? Objection to Exhibit 12.
All right, and did the witness say that they could not identify this, Mr. Sanders?
Partially, Judge, and I'm okay with withdrawing it and offering it later.
Then State is withdrawing State's Exhibit number 12. State's Exhibit 6 through 11. And 13 through 15 is admitted without objection.
What are we looking at in State's Exhibit 13?
La herramienta que el señor Rolando dijo que mi hermano le había robado, que nosotros le habíamos robado.
The tool that Mr. Rolando said my brother had stolen, that we had stolen.
Is that the same thing zoomed in on State's Exhibit 14?
Sí, es la misma.
Yes, it's the same one.
And what kind of tool is that?
Decimos la extensión para pintar.
We call it the extension to paint the trees.
And so after he accused you all of stealing this tool, what happened next?
Después fue cuando se vino para donde yo estaba y cuando intentaba agredirme con el celular.
Afterwards is when he came over to where I was and tried to assault me with the saw.
Where was the saw at?
Sí. Es donde estaba la trailer y donde está la puerta que se rompió.
Yes, correct. That's where the trailer was, where the door broke.
Okay, and so was it on the ground or where did he get it from?
El serrucho estaba en el piso. Habían 2 serruchos en el piso.
The saw was on the ground. There were 2 saws.
Did he say anything when he picked up the saw? Sí.
Yes,
What did he say?
that he was going to cut me.
Okay. At some point, did he turn on the saw? Sí, es correcto.
Yes, it's correct.
Was the blade moving on the saw? Al momento que lo prendió, no tenía el freno, el brake.
Not at the moment that he turned it on because it had the brake on.
Okay. And so when he picked up the saw and said that he was going to cut you, what did you do?
I was able to grab the saw from him as well, and we started struggling.
Were you afraid that he would injure you with the saw?
Yes, of course, yes.
And so when you were fighting over the saw, were you next to each other? Estábamos como de frente y con las manos, yo mi mano por un lado y él también por un lado.
We were like in front of each other, and our hands, like he had them to his side, to one side, and then I also had them to one side.
And the saw that you mentioned, is that what we see in State's Exhibit 9?
Yes, it's correct.
And zoomed in, is that same thing, State's Exhibit 11?
Yes.
Okay, is that a chainsaw?
Yes, it's correct.
Okay, so while you were fighting over the saw, what happened next? Lo logramos mi hermano logró meterla, creo, no me fijé, pero él metió la mano por en medio de la de nosotros y lo logró apagar.
Well, my brother was able to, I didn't quite, see well, but he was able to put his hand in between ours and was able to turn it off.
Okay. While you were fighting over the saw, did any property get damaged? Sí, se dañó la puerta.
Yes, the client's door got damaged.
How did that happen? Estábamos rociando que el serrucho empezó la cadena empezó a dar vueltas, pegó en la puerta.
When we were struggling, when the chain started moving around, it hit the door.
And is that what we see in State's Exhibit 8?
Yes, it is correct.
And zoomed in on State's Exhibit 10?
Yes, it's the same thing, the door.
And also State's Exhibit 7?
Yes,
Whose glasses are those next to the glass? And if you don't know the answer, that's okay.
yeah, because I don't know if they were mine or his, I don't know.
Okay. And so you said your brother came
And he turned off, he was somehow able to turn off the saw?
Sí.
Yes,
Okay, and so what happened after that?
Él soltó el serrucho pegó al suelo. Entonces me agarró del cuello y me pegó 3 golpes.
well, he let go of the saw fell to the floor, and then he grabbed me by the neck and punched me 3 times.
Then what happened?
Mi hermano vio que me tenía del cuello, le dijo que iba a hablar a la policía, entonces él me soltó el serrucho.
My brother saw that he was grabbing me by the neck. He said he was going to call
Objection, Your Honor,
police.
hearsay to what the brother said.
All right, that'll be sustained if it's what the brother said.
Did your brother say something that made the defendant let go of you?
Sí, él nomás le dijo que iba a llamar a la policía.
Yes, he just said,
Objection, Your Honor, to hearsay again, just stating.
All
what the
right,
brother
so here's the thing. I'm listening to the interpreter. So I know that there are people here who actually speak Spanish, but I'm going by what the interpreter says. So I cannot make a ruling until I hear the translation from the interpreter. If the witness is going to say something that someone else said, other than Mr. Huerta, then that objection will be sustained, but the court will not know until I hear from the interpreter.
Yes, Your
So
Honor.
everyone, let's remember, we're going on what the interpreter says, not what we anticipate being said.
Yes, Your Honor. I speak Spanish, so I know what's going on.
Without saying what your brother says, did your brother say something to Roland Huerta that made him stop punching?
No tiene. Yo lo único que escuché es que él iba a llamar a la policía, entonces fue cuando él paró.
I don't understand your question. The only thing I know is that he was going to call the police, and that's when he stopped.
And so after he stopped punching you, what did Roland do?
Salió caminando y regresó para donde él estaba trabajando, para la propiedad donde él estaba trabajando.
He left walking, and he went over to the property where he was working at.
Okay. And is this how the defendant looked on March 5th, 2018, when he attacked you?
Sí, después.
Yes, it's correct.
All right, this time I'll pass the witness.
Defense,
Can I proceed, Your Honor?
yes.
Your Honor, would it be okay if we put his screen down? I'm having trouble seeing his face.
When you say the screen, do you mean the plexiglass?
No, the TV screen. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Valle, do you go by Mr. Valle or?
Sí.
Yes, it's fine.
My name's Rick Ramos. I'm gonna be asking you a few questions. If at any time you don't understand my question, just please let me know, okay?
Está bien.
That's fine.
You mentioned that you used to work for Mr. Huerta, is that correct?
Sí, es correcto.
It is correct.
Okay, in fact, you worked for him the day before this whole incident happened, right?
El día anterior, ¿no?
No, not the previous day.
Okay, so you weren't
Fue
working.
el sábado.
It was on Saturday.
Okay, so during that week you were working for him, right?
Sí, la semana anterior.
Yes, the previous week, yes.
Okay, and you were working a job for him on that same, in that same area, correct? That same neighborhood?
Sí, era una-
Yeah, it was the same area.
In fact, it was only about 2 houses down where you were working with him, right?
es correcto.
It is correct.
Okay, and you knew that the owner of the house that you were working at had requested a bid from Mr. Huerta, right?
Sí, es correcto.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then you and your brother went to that same house and you gave a bid and won that job, right?
No, el señor habló conmigo primero, que si yo estaba haciendo el trabajo donde estaba trabajando para el señor Rolando Huerta, y yo le dije que no era yo el dueño de la compañía, no que él. Me dijo, y entonces él me dijo, pero eres tú quien está haciendo el trabajo. Sí, pero yo trabajo para él. Pero si quieres le puedo pasar la tarjeta de mi hermano, que él ya anda con su propio negocio.
Well, no, it was him, it was the gentleman. First, he asked me if I can give him a bid, and I said, no, it's not me. I'm not the one to do it. He says, but you're doing the job. And I said, yeah, I'm doing the job, but I work for him. And I said, if you like, I can give you my brother's business card.
Okay, and so then at that point in time, you did give him your brother's business card, right?
Es correcto.
That is correct.
And then your brother gave a bid, right?
Sí, él le dio la propuesta después.
Yes, he gave him the bid afterwards.
Okay, and then you went to go work with your brother at that job, right?
Es correcto.
That is correct.
Okay, we've had a lot of discussion about this painter's pole, right?
I'm sorry, could you repeat for the interpreter?
Yes, ma'am, we've had a lot of discussion about this painter's pole.
Uh-huh,
And is that a yes or just because she's writing down every answer?
Sí,
yes,
Thank you, sir. And you had worked with Roland's tools while you were working for him during that week before, right?
sí, es correcto.
it is correct.
Okay, and he had a painter's pole that was very similar to the one that your brother had, right?
Sí, era similar. Es correcto.
Yes, it was similar. That is correct.
Okay. It looked the same, right? In
Yes,
fact, it probably was the same one bought from the same place, right?
Era el mismo, era la misma herramienta, pero no era el mismo.
it was the same tool, but it was not the same, his.
Porque nosotros le enseñamos el recibo a él y también a la oficial de policía cuando
Because we showed the receipt to him and to policemen when he arrived.
I'm not saying that that was Roland's tool. What I'm trying to get at is that it was basically the same tool, probably the same brand, right?
Sí, sí era la misma.
Yes, it was the same.
So if he was missing his, you'd understand if he got it confused with his, right?
Objection calls for speculation.
He knows, right?
Sustain.
Would you agree that it could be easily confused for the same one that Mr. Huerta had?
No, porque después del momento que pasó el intercado, él ya andaba pintando con su herramienta, él tenía su herramienta.
Now, because after the altercation was finished, it was through, he was painting with his own tool.
Okay. Did you ever go to the job site where he was at?
No, es que era de frente.
¿Usted en algún momento se dirigió al lugar donde estaba?
No.
Okay, and thank you, sir.
No, not where Roland was.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about how things went down that day, okay?
Okay.
You mentioned that he went over there to where you were at twice, right?
Sí,
Yes,
Once in the morning, right?
cierto.
yes, that is correct.
Do you remember about what time that was?
Fue casi como mediodía, como de 11, por ahí 11, 12, por ahí más o menos a la mañana.
It was close to noon, like around 11, 12 in the morning.
Okay. Where were you standing when Mr. Huerta arrived that morning?
Yo estaba arriba de un árbol.
I was on a tree, on top of a tree.
Were you on a tree in the front of the house, the back of the house, or the side of the house?
En la parte de atrás, porque los trabajos los estábamos haciendo en la parte de atrás.
It was in the back because we were doing the job in the back.
Okay, so all the work was in the back.
Sí,
Yes,
Okay. Are you familiar with that neighborhood where you were working?
no.
no,
Okay, if I showed you an aerial view of it, do you think you'd be able to recognize it?
Al cliente.
the client?
No, of the house that you were working in.
Sí, la casa, sí.
Yes, the house I can.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Aquila, I'm going to show you what has been marked as Defendant's Exhibit 1. Do you mind taking a look at this? Do you recognize the area that that map depicts?
Sí, la calle, sí, pero la casa no sé si.
The street I do, but the houses, I can't make them out.
Well, when you talked with the state, you mentioned that you recognize the address to the house, right?
La dirección, sí.
The address I do.
Okay, and that was 25602, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay, and do you see 25602, the home marked as that, on that map? The home.
It's this one. Yes, it's this one.
And is that the house that you were working at?
Sí, esta es.
Yes, it's this one,
Okay.
this one.
And does that map that you're looking at accurately depict that neighborhood that you were working in?
Yes.
As far as you know, the roads haven't changed or hasn't been altered in any way?
Hasta este momento, o lo que se ve en el mapa.
Up until this moment, or what you see on the map?
What you see in the map, does it accurately reflect how it looked back in 2018?
Yes.
It hasn't been altered in any way.
No. El parqueo, todo,
No.
la troca del señor.
Here's the parking, here is the gentleman's truck.
Thanks.
Yes.
Your Honor, this time we would move to admit defense exhibit 1.
Defense and state, when you lift that, you need to lift it by the handle, otherwise it's gonna break. The silver handle?
This one?
Yes.
Yes,
So that's how you lift it up and lower it.
Objection.
All right, defense exhibit number 1 is admitted without objection.
May we publish to the jury? Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Aquila, I know we had folded your screen down, but are you able to look at it? Do we need to pick it up?
No.
No.
Okay, can you see the screen in front of you?
Sí. ahora sí.
Yes, now I can.
Okay. Would you agree that this photograph displays the home that you were working at? And I'm gonna point it out for the jury, the 25602 here.
Yes,
Yes, okay. Now, do you remember the home that you had been working with Roland in that week prior?
La dirección, el número no, pero la casa estaba para.
the address, the number, I don't, but the house was towards,
Would you agree with me that it's down this street here on Forest Road, essentially this house?
Sí.
yes, yes,
So you had been working here with Roland that week before, right?
yes.
Okay, so when Roland came over, can you point to me or let's try to focus in here on this back end. You mentioned you're in the backyard, but you agree with me that this is the back area that you were doing the work in?
Sí.
Yes,
The pictures that you looked at with the state, we were talking about this area here, is that correct?
Sí.
yes,
Okay, this is that back shed area where you're saying that that table broke, or the door, I'm sorry.
Sí, es como un garaje donde guarda la herramienta al señor.
yes, it's like a garage where the gentleman keeps his tools.
So when Roland came to you, you're saying that you were in the back, right?
Sí, cuando llegó en la mañana, sí.
Yes, when he got there in the morning, yes.
Okay, and you can have a seat, sir. Thank you. You mentioned that you had not called Roland to come over, right?
I'm sorry, could you repeat for the interpreter?
Yes, you had mentioned that you had not called for Roland to come over, right?
Yes,
Do you recall calling Roland and asking him to borrow tools that morning?
No.
no,
So you never called him then to ask him to borrow tools, is your
Que yo
story.
recuerde, no.
not that I remember, no.
But it's possible that you did then?
No lo sé, porque no me recuerdo, ya pasó mucho tiempo.
I don't know because I don't remember. A lot of time has gone by.
Okay. You also mentioned that your brother wasn't there, right?
No, no, él no estaba.
No, he was not there.
Okay. What time did your brother get back to the house?
Ya en la mera tarde, como de las 4 o 5.
It was already in the afternoon, around 4 or 5.
Okay. Whose wife was there?
La de mi hermano.
My brothers.
And so she had also arrived, correct?
Sí, ella iba con mi hermano.
Yes, she was with my brother.
Okay, you'd agree with me that she was in her vehicle for the most part that night, right?
Sí, ella estaba dentro del vehículo.
Yeah, she was inside the vehicle.
And in looking at this photograph, this is a long driveway that we've got right here, correct?
Sí, sentado.
Yes, that's the driveway.
Okay, and you'd agree with me that your brother's wife was way back here parked in her car, right? In this area?
Sí,
Yes,
Okay, and where everything happened was way over here.
sí, donde estaba la traila del señor del frente.
yes, where the trailer for the gentleman, that the client was.
And you'd agree with me that that trailer. Can I borrow the photos? You'd agree with me that that trailer was backed up to the shed there, correct?
Yes,
I want to make sure we get a photo just so that we're clear. I'm showing the witness what is marked as State's Exhibit 5. This shed in this photograph that we're looking is this shed here in this photo, correct?
yes,
This is the trailer that had the door that broke, right?
Sí, esa es la traila.
yes, that's the trailer.
Okay, so what I would like to know, Mr. Archila, is when this whole confrontation happened with the painter's pole, where was the painter's pole located?
Palo de la pintura estaba donde estaba mi hermano.
The
Where was-
painter's pole was where my brother was.
Where was your brother?
Mi hermano estaba un poquito adelantito donde se rompió la puerta de vidrio.
My brother was a little towards the front where that door, that glass door broke.
So your brother was in this driveway area,
Sí, estaba en el driveway.
Yeah, he was on the driveway, correct?
and that's where the painter's pole was, correct?
Sí,
Yes,
When Mr. Huerta grabbed it for the first time, that's where it was.
sí, ahí era donde estaba.
yes, that's where it was.
How far did he get with the painter's pole?
Recorrió como unos 2 metros, más porque mi hermano se lo agarró de la parte de atrás y dijo que era de él.
He got about 2 meters away because my brother was able to grab it from the back part and told him that it was his.
So it would be fair to say that he never made it past the second trailer that we're looking at here in State's Exhibit 7, where you were putting the rams of the tree in, right?
What was the question?
It would be fair to say that if the painter's pole was here by this trailer, and you said he only made it about 2 meters with it before your brother took it away, it'd be fair to say he never made it past this trailer with it, correct?
No, porque él agarró la herramienta de pintura y él quiso regresar para el trabajo de él. So, no agarró como para donde estaba la puerta que se rompió, no, que como que quiso llevárselo para la área donde él estaba trabajando.
And he was working, I'm sorry.
No, because when he grabbed the tool, the painting tool, and then he returned to his work, but he didn't get past the glass door.
Okay. So he never even made it past this trailer with it.
Y en ese momento, no.
Not at that moment, no.
Did he ever make it past with it?
Cuando mi hermano le agarró el palo y él lo soltó, fue cuando agarró para donde estaban los serruchos. Y cruzó
What?
donde estaba la puerta.
When my brother grabbed it, it's where he went over to where the saw was. That's where, the glass, the door.
Okay. So then that would be a no to my question that he never made it past this trailer with the painter's pole, right?
No,
No,
Where was the saw located?
un poquito más para atrás, por donde se rompió la puerta.
a little further back where the door broke.
Back towards the shed?
Sí,
Yes,
Okay. Where on this picture would you say the saw was when you picked it up?
ahí ya estaba el serrucho donde ya se terminó todo, que él se se soltó el serrucho al suelo.
The saw was there when everything was over, when the saw, was, went to the floor.
So are you saying that when Mr. Huerta picked it up, it was exactly where it's at in this photo?
No.
No, no.
That's
Estaba en
why,
medio, como entre medio de la puerta, ahí donde se encuentra.
No, it was like towards the middle of the door where it's at right now.
okay, so in this photograph, would it be easier to show on this one, which shows the front of that trailer, or on this photograph that depicts the back of it?
What did he say, that it would be easier, what?
Which photograph would it be easier for you to tell the jury where exactly the chainsaw was when Mr. Huerta picked it up?
En esta
On this one.
Where was it, sir?
estaba como unos 4 metros de donde se encuentra donde se encuentra ahorita el serrucho.
It was like 4 meters from where the saw is there right now, like towards this way.
Como al final donde se ve no sé si son unas mesas mesas desechables, ¿cierto?
Like towards the end where there's some disposable tables, I think.
Okay, so basically at the end of these tables, you'd agree that that's where the saw was when Mr. Huerta picked it up.
Sí, es correcto.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and then you testified that he picked it up and he threatened you, right?
Sí,
Yes,
Okay. You mentioned that he said he was gonna cut you with it,
yes,
and then you both struggled with the chainsaw, right?
es correcto.
that is correct.
And in that struggle is where that door broke, right?
Yes,
And you also mentioned that after the struggle, he dropped the chainsaw, right, when your brother turned it off,
yes,
and that he got you in a headlock and punched you, right?
Sí, me agarró el cuello.
yes, he grabbed me by the neck.
Grabbed you by the neck with his hand?
Sí, con la mano izquierda y me pegó con la
Yes, with his left hand, and he hit me with his right.
Okay. This is the first time that you're telling anybody that you've been punched here, right?
No, más le dije cuando vine al otro fiscal, porque la primera vez que vine a la corte, creo era otro fiscal y otro intérprete. Pero
No, I think I'm sorry. I told the other ADA because the first time that I came to court, I told another one, and there was another interpreter.
You remember talking to the sheriff's office, right?
Yes, correct.
In fact, you actually gave them a written statement, did you not?
sí,
Yes,
Okay, and you wrote that in your own handwriting, right?
sí,
yes,
And they gave you the opportunity to write down your side of the story, right?
sí, pero el oficial me dijo que escribiera lo más específico y que fuera o sea, más corto ¿cómo se llama? La línea que yo escribí, que fuera lo más corto, lo más rápido. Que fuera específico lo más importante que había pasado, lo más delicado.
yes, the officer told me to be as specific as possible, but to make it short, on the line, to make it short, but to be very specific and point out what was the most important part.
Okay. And you did write down what was the important parts in this statement, right?
Sí, lo que más, o sea, lo que más me dañó a mí, que fue lo del ataque con Ferruccio.
Yes, what hurt me the most, which was the assault with the saw.
Okay. And you made this statement back in 2018, correct?
Sí,
Yes,
And like you said, a lot of time has passed since then, right?
yes,
You'd agree with me that you probably remembered things better back then as opposed to 4 years later, right?
I did not understand the question.
Would you agree with me that you probably remember things a lot better back then, 4 years ago, as opposed to today?
Sí, es correcto.
Yes, that is correct.
And would you agree with me that in your statement that you wrote to the officer, you never once mentioned being punched?
No, porque el oficial me dijo que estuviera lo.
No, because the
I would
officer.
object to
told me.
non-responsive, Your Honor.
Again, the interpreter needs to interpret.
Yes, sir.
Did you say the officer told me? No, the officer told me.
Así que no puse eso porque el oficial me dijo que fuera específico lo que había pasado.
No, I didn't put it because the officer told me to be as specific as to what had happened.
Okay, so the officer told you, don't tell me everything that happened then.
No me dijo que no le dijera todo lo que pasó, no, que me dijo que estuviera lo más específico, lo más, o sea, la agresión más grave que me había hecho, fue lo que hice.
No, he didn't say don't write everything down. He said just be specific as to the assaults that occurred to me.
Okay, and so you think getting punched in the face is not an assault?
Yo pensé que eso no era grave.
Usted piensa que entonces el que le golpea en la cara no es grave.
Sí.
Yes, I didn't think it was that serious.
Your Honor, may we approach at this time?
Yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you a short break and then we'll come back. So I'm going to give you all a break, and if I'm going to want everyone back by 10:45. So that'll give you a chance to take a short break. Then we're going to come back and finish with this witness. All right, you've heard some evidence. In this case, you're not allowed to discuss amongst yourself or with anyone else about what has been heard. I will let you know when you have the court's permission to begin deliberation. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
All right, everyone, please rise for the jury. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right, defense, you want to take the witness on board here, and then the court will make a ruling on
Yes, sir.
your objection.
Yes, sir. Mr. Attila, would you agree with me that you have spoken with an immigration attorney?
Yes,
Okay, and it's true that you were previously deported from the United States, correct?
yes,
And that was in, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe about 2012 or 13, right?
No tengo no recuerdo la fecha exacta de cuando fui deportado.
I don't recall the exact dates when I was deported.
Okay, but then you came back to the United States, right?
Yes,
Obviously, you're here, right? And when you spoke with this immigration attorney, you guys talked about what's called a U visa, correct?
yes,
And that's the victim visa, right? Right?
with who?
With Roland.
No,
Okay, so you haven't applied for a U visa?
Rolando,
with Rolando.
No, on your own.
al abogado o a Rolando,
To who? To the attorney or to Roland?
To the attorney?
que el abogado con el que lleva el caso.
Yes, with the attorney that's handling the case, yes.
Yes, and your case, you mean your U visa application, right?
Yes,
Okay, you understand that one of the requirements for the U visa is that you be a witness in this case as well, correct?
yes,
So in order to get that, you one, have to be a victim of a crime, and two, you have to be a witness in it as well, correct?
Judge, I believe that, I'm gonna object that that's a misstatement of the law and outside of the knowledge of the witness.
All right, that'll be overruled.
You can answer that question. So you understand that those are requirements for your U visa, correct?
Se supone que sí, porque es lo que me ha dicho el abogado.
supposedly it is. That's what the attorney has told me.
And you want to make sure that you get your U visa, right?
Sí, sí, sí puede, sí, sí, no.
Yes, if I could, yes. If not, well,
Don't want to be deported again,
no,
right?
no quiero que lo deporten otra vez, ¿verdad?
Es obvio que no.
Well, obviously not.
That concludes my word, Your Honor. I'd ask that the jury be allowed to hear this information.
All right, any questions from the defense?
From the state, yes, Judge.
I'm sorry, from the state, yes.
Roberto, did you speak to an attorney before or after this offense happened?
¿Usted habló con el abogado antes o después de que sucediera este caso? O
Después.
afterwards?
Okay, and did you know about a U visa before speaking with someone from the district attorney's office?
Antes de usted hablar con alguien de la fiscalía, ¿usted sabía de esta visa U?
Sí, me habían dicho, pero que no quería, ¿cómo se llama? Aplicar.
Yes, I had been told about it, but I didn't want to apply.
When were you told about it?
Cuando?
A veces a amigos que les contaba el caso que me había pasado, me tienen que aplicar para una visa o algo.
Well, it was with friends, you know, when I would tell them about the case, they would say, oh, well, you know, you can apply for one.
Did you know about a U visa before Roland assaulted?
¿Usted sabía de la visa U antes de que el Roland lo agrediera?
No.
No.
Aaron will pass the witness.
Nothing further from here.
All right, this is the court's ruling. Defense, you're allowed to question the witness about the U visa. You're not allowed to question the witness about whether or not he's been previously deported in state. You can cross-examine with regards to the U visa, when he knew. All right, does everyone understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so there's to be no mention that this witness has ever been deported. You can question him only about the U visa.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, is there anything else from either side?
Nothing from the state.
Nothing from the defense, Your Honor.
All right, then the jury will be back in at 10:45. All right, yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. I just want to clarify a few things with you, Mr. Chila. These photographs are not photographs that you took, correct?
No,
No,
These are what the officers took at the scene, right?
no sé si lo tomó él, no sé.
I don't know if he took them. I don't know.
But there were officers at the scene, right?
Yes.
I want to take us back to the struggle, okay?
Yes.
Can you tell me, to the best of your knowledge, exactly how the struggle happened from when Mr. Huerta, in your side of things, when he picked up the chainsaw, what exactly happened after?
Sí, lo sucedió fue que él levantó el serrucho, lo prendió, y ya donde vi que lo aceleró, pues yo obvio tuve que reaccionar, fue como reaccioné.
Well, what happened is that he picked it up, he turned it on, he hit it to accelerate it, and I had to react. I don't know how I went to react.
Entonces fue cuando pues ya empezamos a bloquear con el serrucho los dos, dimos una media vuelta, luego el serrucho ya sin el break, sin el freno.
And then that's when we started the struggle. And so we both did like a half a turn. The saw was without the brake.
Ya la cadena empezó a girar, entonces fue cuando pegó en la puerta y seguimos forcejeando hasta que llegamos a la esquina de la traila que se ve ahí, la del cliente.
And then that's when the chain started to go around. We reached the door, and then we were struggling when we got to the corner of the client's trailer.
Porque él lo que quería era levantarlo y pues obvio.
What he wanted was to pick it up. I mean, obviously.
Is the door the only thing that was hit?
Sí fue lo único que se rompió.
Yes, it was the only thing that broke.
Okay, so the saw never touched you, right?
No, porque no, o sea, los dos estábamos forcejeando y como pude lo construimos acá abajo y no dejé que me lo levantara y me lo hiciera.
Yes, we were both struggling. I was able to hold it down, and I did the best effort in order for him not to put it on me.
The saw never hit the ground, right, in the sense of the chain hitting the ground, right?
No, al piso no, porque ya cuando mi hermano apagó el serrucho, lo soltó él y ya cayó al suelo.
No, not on the ground, because when my brother was able to turn it off, then he let it go.
It never hit any other part of the trailer, right?
Solo pegó en la puerta y medio se resbaló en el hierro de la traila.
No, it was only the door, and it slid a little bit on the
En el ángulo de la traila.
on the angle of the trailer.
You mean on the metal part?
Sí.
Yes.
Okay. Nowhere else on the trailer, right?
No, nomás en el ángulo.
No, just on the angle.
Okay. And you remember that clearly, right?
Yes.
I want to talk to you now a little bit about what happened after this event, okay?
Nosotros seguimos trabajando.
We continued working.
Okay, well, I want to talk about some days later, okay, or time frame later. I don't know how long exactly, but correct me if I'm wrong. Since this event has happened to today, you yourself have applied for what's called a U visa, correct?
Yes.
And you've done that through an attorney, right?
Yes.
And you understand that there's certain requirements that must be met in order for you to receive that U visa, right?
Pues no entiendo yo lo que me dice el abogado sobre lo que hago.
Well, I don't understand. Whatever the attorney tells me is what I do.
Okay, well, you'd agree with me that you understand that for the U visa, you have to be considered a victim of a crime, right?
Pienso que sí.
I think so.
And you also have to be a compliant witness with the case, right?
Yes,
And you want to make sure that you get that visa, right?
Si se puede, sí, si no, pues no.
if it could
Estaría
be,
bien siempre.
if it could be, yes, if not, well, no, but it would be good.
That's the witness.
Right, state.
Thank you, Judge. Okay, I want to ask you a few questions about the struggle with the chainsaw. When the defendant picked up the chainsaw, were y'all facing each other?
Sí, estamos de acuerdo.
Yes, we were facing each other.
Did he point the chainsaw in your direction and say he would cut you?
Judge, your honor, to leading.
Sustained.
Where was the chainsaw pointing when he said he would cut you?
A la dirección de la cara.
In the direction of my face.
Okay, and then when y'all were struggling over the chainsaw, did at any point he swing it in your direction?
I'm sorry, could you repeat for the interpreter?
When y'all were struggling over the chainsaw, at any point did he swing it in your direction?
No, porque la bajamos así para un lado y fue cuando pegó la puerta y seguimos forceando y pasó no dejé que la levantara.
No, because we had it down here. That's when it hit the door and I did not allow him to pick it up, to bring it up.
Okay, but it was swinging around.
Sí, él me quería cortar con el serrucho y llegó un dado momento que ya sentí que ya no tenía fuerza en la mano, que fue cuando ya terminamos para donde está la casita esa donde quedó el serrucho.
Yes, he wanted to cut me with the saw. There was a point there where I felt I didn't have any more strength on my hands, and that's where it landed, close to that little house.
Entonces yo le pedí a mi hermano que hiciera algo y entonces él no sé cómo hizo, metió la mano y apagó el serrucho.
So I asked my brother to do something, and I don't know how he did it, but he put his hand and turned off the saw.
And so defense counsel also asked you about the U visa. When did you first learn about the U visa? Was it before or after this offense happened?
Pues cuando hablé la primera vez con el fiscal, la primera vez que me tocó.
It was the first time when I spoke with the ADA. It's the first time that I came to court.
So it was after the offense happened.
Yes.
Did you know about a U visa before the offense happened?
No.
Did you speak to an attorney regarding a U visa before the offense happened?
No.
And had you applied for a U visa before the offense happened?
No.
All right, this time we'll pass the witness.
Nothing further from your honor.
Is this witness excused or subject for recall?
It's used for the state.
Excuse for us, sir.
All right. The rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state and attorneys for the defense. Do you understand?
Yes,
All
yes.
right, then you're excused. State, call your next witness.
Yes, Judge, the state calls Manuel Enrique Archila Valle.
you raise your right hand for me?
Levante la mano derecha, señor, por favor.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes,
All right, you can lower your hand. State your name for the record, please.
Manuel Enrique Archila Valle.
State.
Thank you, Judge. Do you know Rigoberto Archila Valle?
Yes, he's my brother.
And Manuel, do you live in San Antonio?
Yes,
Where do you work?
I work with the tree service, cutting trees.
For what company?
I work for myself and sometimes I get other jobs.
Do you have any employees?
No, solo trabajo yo y mi hermano y a veces me ayudan un muchacho así, pero por días.
No, it's only my brother and myself. Sometimes I have some guys that help me only for the day.
Manuel, do you remember an incident occurring on March 5th, 2018?
Sí,
Yes, yes.
What were you doing that day?
yo, como estaba haciendo, lo que estaba haciendo era, estaba pintando con una sección de pintar.
What I was doing is that I was painting with a painting extension.
Do you remember where you were working at that day?
Sí, la dirección exacta no me sé, pero está aquí en Boston.
Yes, I don't know the exact address, but it's over here in Bernie.
Were you working with your brother?
Yes,
What was the job that you and your brother were hired to do?
Para limpiar árboles, para limpiar los árboles, la seco, uno que le dicen bombas. Bombas, son algunos que le salen a los ojos.
it was to clean some trees, you know, those trees that are dry, and the moss, you know, the little balls that come out on the trees.
Manuel, do you know Roland Huerta?
Yes,
How do you know him?
Trabajaba para él.
I used to work for him before.
Was Roland Huerta working with you and your brother that day?
No, sí, ya no.
No, not on that day.
Ya no trabajamos para él.
We don't work with him anymore.
Manuel, when did you stop working for Roland Huerta?
No me acuerdo exactamente la fecha, pero ya tenía como aproximadamente unos 4 o 3 meses más o menos. No trabajaba para él.
I don't recall exactly the date, but it had already been like 3 or 4 months that I had worked for him.
Why did you stop working for Roland Huerta?
El motivo que dejé de trabajar por él fue porque a cada rato me andaba diciendo que estaba muy lento, que mi hermano hacía más trabajo, que no, que ya no le desempeñaba lo que antes hacía para él.
Well, the reason is that he was always telling me that I was very slow, that my brother was doing more work, and that I was not performing correctly for him.
When you stopped working for Roland, what did you do?
Lo que hice fue vender un carrito viejo que tenía para comprarme un trailer y empezar yo a buscar trabajo para mí.
What I did is that I sold my little car, my old little car that I had, and I bought a trailer in order to start looking for work for myself.
And do you see Roland Huerta in the courtroom today?
Yes, he's over there.
Can you please point to him and identify him by a piece of clothing?
Era un chico de una corbata, pero cromada.
He has a vest and a tie, bone tie.
Sorry, can you speak around the color?
El color no sé cómo decirlo, pero está ahí.
The color, I don't know how to say it, but he's over there.
Are you referring to the gentleman in the middle of the table?
Sí.
Yes.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant. Okay, Manuel, I want to talk about what happened on March 5th of 2018. Do you remember what happened that day?
Seguro que sí.
Of course I did.
Okay. What happened that day?
Ok. Lo que pasó ese día fue que yo venía de regreso del convito de comprarme una herramienta. Fue con la misma que estaba sosteniendo cuando él llegó.
But what happened that day is that I was returning from Home Depot from purchasing a tool that it was the same that he had.
Sí, ese fue el pozo con el que yo estaba pensando que él llegó a querérmelo arrebatar diciendo que era de él.
And that was the pole that I was using to paint, and he came over, he wanted to take it away from me, saying that it was his.
And was it his tool?
No, era mía, yo tenía el recibo y se lo enseñé a él.
No, it was mine, and I had a receipt and I showed it to him.
And what did he do after that?
Estábamos forcejeando el ese, porque él se lo quería llevar. A él no le importaba que le enseñara el recibo ese.
We were struggling over it because he wanted to take it. He said he didn't care about the receipt.
And did he take it?
Yes, and I do.
No, porque yo no lo dejé y mi hermano llegó, estaba allá atrás cuando soltó el coso del palo de pintar, fue cuando accionaron con el serrucho.
No, because I didn't let him. My brother came over, he was in the back, and that's when they started struggling with the saw.
Are you referring to a chainsaw?
Exactamente.
Exactly.
And what happened with the chainsaw?
El motosierra fue cuando él lo agarró, cuando terminamos de forcejear con el palo de pintar, fue cuando él lo agarró.
The chainsaw, he grabbed it. You know, once we stopped struggling over the pole, then he grabbed it.
Who is he?
Rolando.
And what did Roland do with the chainsaw?
Cuando agarró el motosierra empezó a crear, lo prendió y empezó a hacerle a mi hermano con el celular. Fue cuando mi hermano lo agarró y empezaron a forcejear y empezaron a hacerle que rompió una puerta y una.
Well, when he grabbed the chainsaw, he turned it on. They were going like this. My brother grabbed it, and they were going like this, and that's when they broke the door.
Where was your brother standing when Roland turned on the chainsaw?
Mi hermano estaba parado en la esquina.
My brother was standing at the corner.
And where was that in relation to Roland with the chainsaw?
Estaba justamente atrás, estaba en medio de los dos.
It was directly in the back, like in the middle of both.
The chainsaw was in the middle of both?
Sí, el serrucho estaba.
en medio.
Sí.
Yes,
No,
yes.
Y Rolando estaba en medio. Estaba en medio de nosotros porque mi hermano venía bajando del árbol.
No, Roland was in the middle because my brother was coming down from the tree.
And where was the chainsaw pointed?
La motosierra estaba dirigida hacia
A mi hermano.
to my brother.
Do you remember if Roland said anything when he picked up the chainsaw?
Exactamente no me acuerdo porque ya hace mucho tiempo y yo pensé que eso ya estaba olvidado.
Exactly, I don't remember because it's been a long time and I thought that had been forgotten.
What happened after he picked up the chainsaw and pointed it at your brother?
¿Qué fue lo que pasó después de que recogió la motosierra
Bueno.
y se la asignó a su hermano?
Cuando pasó eso, mi hermano agarró el serrucho y yo traté de pararlos con con el palo de apuntar.
When that happened, my brother grabbed the saw. I tried to stop them with the pole, the painting pole.
And then what happened?
Y luego lo que pasó, te vi que no podía hacer nada, porque estaban con el serrucho, me aparté a un lado y de ahí reaccioné y lo apagué. No sé ni cómo lo hice.
I noticed that I couldn't do anything, and so I stepped to one side and then I reacted and turned it off. I don't know how I did it.
You physically turned off the chainsaw?
Usted físicamente apagó la motosierra.
Sí,
Yes.
And then what happened when the chainsaw was turned off?
Y cuando se apagó la motosierra, ¿qué pasó?
cuando se apagó la motosierra, yo volteé y fue cuando el muchacho agarró a mi hermano de fuego y le dio golpes en la espalda.
When the chainsaw was turned off, I turned around and that's when the guy grabbed my brother by the neck.
Sí, sí.
He grabbed him like so.
Roland grabbed your brother by the neck?
Roland,
Sí. Rolando, sí.
Roland, yes.
And then what happened after that?
Y cuando eso fue que yo le dije que quería llamar a la policía.
After that is when I told them that I was going to call the police.
And did you call the police?
Yes.
What happened after that?
Él se fue caminando, se fue para donde estaba trabajando, que estaba como a 2-3 bloques de distancia.
He left walking. He went back to where he was working, which was a distance of about 2-3 blocks.
When you say here, you're referring to Rolando, or Roland, sorry.
Cuando usted dice él, se está
Rolando,
refiriendo
perdón.
Rolando, yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. When the chainsaw was on and your brother and Roland were struggling, were you afraid for your brother?
Sí, claro, sí, sí, yo tenía,
Yes, of course, yes, I was afraid.
por eso.
That's why.
State passes the witness judge.
Defense,
Procedure,
yes.
provide it. My name is Rick Ramos. I'm gonna ask you a few questions, okay?
Uh-huh.
If you have any questions or you don't understand my question, please just let me know.
Okay, uh-huh.
You mentioned that when Mr. Huerta arrived, you were painting a tree, correct?
Sí, señor.
Yes, sir.
And you were using the painter's pole, I'd imagine?
No, no lo estaba usando, iba a pintar, por eso tenía el palo, estaba recién llegado del Home Depot.
No, I was not painting. I was not using it yet. I had just arrived from Home Depot.
So you were getting the pole ready?
Exactamente.
Exactly.
Okay, were you in the backyard with your brother as well?
Sí, exactamente, estábamos en la parte de atrás.
Yes, exactly. We were in the back part.
Okay. If I showed you a map, do you think you would recognize the house where you were working?
Seguro que sí.
Of course, yes.
Okay, go ahead and look at your screen there in front of you. I'm going to show you what's already been admitted as defense exhibit 1.
Okay.
What I'm showing you here is a map that depicts the street Broad Oak Trail and Forest Trail with a house with an address of 25602. Do you recognize this home that is 25602 Broad Oak Trail as the home where you were working?
Sí.
Yes, yes, it's here.
Okay, and when you mentioned that you were in the back, is this that back area?
It's this one.
And I think you might be able to draw it. Can you try touching it on the screen and see if it'll pop up?
It's right here, this one.
Okay, so you're in that back area working, correct?
Sí,
Yes,
Okay, and you said your brother was up in a tree?
estaba subido en una bolsa,
he was up in a tree, exactly.
Do you know which tree that he was in?
justamente el que está aquí en la mera entrada.
It's exactly this one that's right at the entrance, this one.
Okay. And when we're talking about the painter's pole that you had just arrived with, you said that you had it in your hands, correct? Is this the pole that we're talking about?
Sí, sí,
Yes, yes.
Okay. And in this picture here, states exhibit 6, is that also the pole that we're talking about?
no, este es el, sí, ese es el mismo.
Is this the same? Yes, this is the same.
That's the same one, correct? So is that about where you were standing when all of this happened?
Sí,
Yes,
exactamente aquí.
exactly here.
Okay. Do you know where the chainsaw was located when Mr. Huerta got it?
Sí, estaba en un lado aquí. Que
It
me
was-
muestra lo mismo que me mostró
It
antes.
was to the side here. If you can show me what you showed me.
This picture?
¿Esta fotografía?
Sí,
Yes,
Where was it?
sí, yo estaba por aquí en esta área, por aquí.
it was
You-
around this area right here, around here.
Can you draw a big X there for the jury? And so when you guys had the altercation for the painter's pole,
Oh, sorry,
Yes, yes.
sorry. It's this one.
where? Well, that's the chainsaw that we're talking about, right?
Sí, yes.
But
Yes,
where
it
was
is.
it when he first picked it up?
Exactamente.
Exactly.
No me acuerdo muy bien si fue de ese mismo lugar.
I don't recall too well if it was from that same
Porque
place,
él venía caminando de esta a este, como aquí está el porche, él venía caminando aquí.
because he was walking over here. Here's the porch and he was walking from here towards here.
If I show you this area, let me clear these drawings for you, sir. Do you have an idea of where you think the saw was the first time that he picked it up, after you guys argued about the painter's pole?
Creo que es la misma, la donde estaba la motosierra.
I think it's the same where the chainsaw was.
In this photograph,
¿En esta
or
fotografía?
Sí, la que estaba ahí, la que le mostré a este.
The one that I showed you, this one,
Exactamente el
the
mismo.
one that I show you, exactly.
so is that exactly where the struggle happened when he picked it up?
Sí,
Yes,
Okay, and you can have a seat, sir. You mentioned that you tried to stop the fight, right?
exactamente.
exactly.
And then you said you were trying to stop it with the painter's pole?
Sí, eso fue. Sí.
That was, yes.
Do you remember hitting Mr. Huerta with the painter's pole?
No, por ningún motivo le pegué.
No, I didn't hit him at all, no reason.
And I noticed that you said something when you mentioned that Mr. Huerta had grabbed your brother by the neck. You had also said that he hit him in the back, right?
Sí.
Yes.
So when you said espalda, you meant his back, right?
Exacto.
In my back, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so he hit you in the back or your brother in the back?
No, a mi hermano, a mí.
No, my brother, not me.
Okay, and this is after the chainsaw was dropped, right?
Después de eso. Ujú.
After the saw, yes.
Okay. That's the witness, Your Honor. Separate these because these are blue. You're good? Yeah, that's yours. Small one.
And I'm gonna show you some pictures of where you guys were working that day, okay?
Uh-huh.
The defense counsel just showed you this picture, correct?
Sí,
Yes,
And then, well, what is this on the ground right here?
esa es una posta de gas, una extensión que sale, una posta de gas. Es de extensión, es una,
it's a gas post.
sí, gas post. Sí.
Gas post, yes, it's a gas post.
Is it another form of chainsaw?
Es otra forma de motosierra.
Sí, pero nomás que tiene extensión, es como,
Yes, but it's like an extension, like,
Is it for cutting trees?
es para cortar
Sí.
árboles. Yes.
So when defense
Entonces,
defense
cuando
counsel
la
asked you about the location of the chainsaw and you drew an X right here,
usted puso un X aquí.
sí, porque es que no me acordaba exactamente si era este serrucho, porque no había visto esta parte de aquí.
Yes,
Pero
it's
este es el serrucho.
It's just that I didn't remember whether it was the chainsaw that was here, but it's this chainsaw.
Okay, and you're referring to this chainsaw here, correct?
That one, yes.
And this is the chainsaw that Roland picked up and pointed at your brother.
Sí, exactamente.
Yes, exactly.
Now, okay, I'm gonna show you what's marked as state's exhibit number 5.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, does that look familiar?
Sí.
Yes.
Now, on the screen, can you mark where Roland initially picked up the chainsaw? State passes the witness, Judge.
Procedure. Okay, procedure.
Yes.
Mr. Revaya, I want to clear some things up with you. You recall March 5th, 2018, right?
Yes,
Okay. You remember that being a Monday?
it was Monday.
Okay. You know that your brother had been working for Mr. Huerta just the day before, 2 days before, right?
Yes,
Okay. In fact, that's how you were able to put in a bid at that home, right?
Exactamente.
exactly.
Because when your brother was working with Mr. Huerta, he found out that that homeowner was looking for a bid, right?
Exactamente.
Exactly.
And then he passed that information to you, right?
¿Quién, mi hermano?
Who, my brother? Yes,
Okay. And then he just didn't show up for work Monday with Mr. Huerta, right?
Exactamente.
exactly.
He showed up to help you with that job instead, right?
Exactamente.
Exactly.
Okay, so you knew though that at that point in time, he still had been working with Mr. Huerta, right?
Yo no sabía si seguía trabajando con él o me iba a ayudar a mí.
I didn't know whether he was going to continue working with him or help me.
Well, you knew Monday that he was helping you and not Roland, right?
Can you repeat for the interpreter?
Yes, you knew that on Monday he was helping you and not Roland, right?
Exactamente.
Exactly.
Good question, John.
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excuse.
Excuse for us, John.
All right, you're excused. The rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you can speak to are attorneys for the state and the defense. Do you understand?
Exactly.
All right.
Am I done?
Is the interpreter required for any other witnesses?
Not for the state.
Not from
All
us.
right, thank you so much.
My pleasure, Judge.
All right, state, call your next witness.
State calls Deputy Rutherford. Move your shades. Would you raise your right hand, please?
You solemnly swear upon the testimony you give with the truth and nothing but you so help you God?
I do.
All right, you may take a seat, and if you could state your name for the record, please.
I'm Deputy Brett Rutherford.
All right, state.
Thank you. Deputy Rutherford, are you currently employed?
Yes,
How are you employed?
I'm currently employed with the Bexar County Sheriff's Office,
How long have you been with BCSO?
11 years.
Are you a certified peace officer?
I am.
As a certified peace officer with BCSO, I guess what duties do you have?
Currently, I serve in the mental health unit, but time of the incident, I served in the patrol unit.
Okay. And as a deputy in the patrol unit, is your responsibility to respond to calls?
It is.
Okay. Were you working for BCSO in 2018?
I was.
Do you remember responding to the address of 25602 Bravo Trail?
I do.
What were you dispatched out there for?
Call for a disturbance.
At the time, did you know what type of disturbance it was?
Indicated that it was a disturbance there, location between workers.
Okay. So did you go to that location?
I did.
Is that location within Bexar County, Texas?
It is.
And so when you got to that location, who was there?
I met with the complainant, Roberto, and his brother Enrique.
Okay. And so based on what they told you, did you then go to another location?
I did.
What was your point in going to that second location?
The complainant indicated that 2 houses down from there was the person who ended up being arrested that I detained, which that person had taken a chainsaw and swung them at them during that disturbance.
Okay. What was the name of that person?
Roberto,
No, sorry, the person who you detained.
the person I detained, ROLAND HUERTA.
Did they mention some sort of dispute about a tool being stolen or something to that effect?
They did. They said that he had came and claimed that they had taken some tools from a previous job. He attempted to pick up a pole that was at the location. They showed me a receipt for the pole that said that it showed that they had bought it that day.
Okay. And so you went and detained the defendant, Roland, correct?
I did.
Did you ask him about what happened?
I did, and he stated that he did go to the location, but he stated that the people at the location had someone there had picked up the chainsaw and just wanted to say.
Did he mention that that he called 911 at all?
No.
And did you see the chainsaw?
Yes.
Starting my social witness.
Yes.
If you recall, I'm showing you what's been admitted as exhibit 11. Is that the chainsaw from the day?
Yes,
And is this chainsaw capable of causing death or serious bodily injury?
it is.
All right, at this time we'll pass the witness.
All right, defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy Rutherford, how are you?
Good.
Good. You weren't the only officer to arrive on scene that day, right?
I was the first responding officer.
First responding officer. When did you become a deputy?
In March of 2011.
2011. Did you work law enforcement prior to that?
No.
What academy did you go to?
Went through the Jailers Academy at the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, and I went to the Police Officers Academy at San Antonio College.
Okay, and that was 2010 timeframe?
No, I went through the Peace Officers Academy in 2015. And the
Okay,
Jailers Academy in 2011.
okay, so that's when you became a deputy and started patrolling in 2015 timeframe-ish?
I became a, yes,
Okay. You'd agree with me that at the academy, that's pretty much where you learn how to be an officer, right?
it's where you learn the basics for your license.
Okay, and they teach you there, how to write reports, right?
Mhm.
And is that a yes, sir?
Yes,
Not being rude to you, it's just that she's writing everything down, so it's hard for her to distinguish between and okay? They teach you how to do investigations, right?
somewhat, yes,
Okay. And you're supposed to put these practices that you learn there into practice when you're out in the field, right?
yes,
One of the things that they teach you is to get as much information as possible, right?
yes,
Because when you're at the scene, you're just establishing probable cause to decide if you have enough to make an arrest, right?
yes,
Later, if follow-up investigations need to be done, that will happen after the fact, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you'd agree with me that it's important to gather all the facts in a case, right?
Yes.
You should get as much information as you possibly can, right?
Yes.
And you should gather all the evidence that you possibly can.
Yes.
And that's important so that, people don't get convicted of things that they didn't do, right?
Yes.
In this situation, you wrote a report, right?
I did.
You've had an opportunity to review that report?
I have.
Okay, and in your reports, you try to write down everything that you feel is important at the time.
Yes.
And you're not supposed to be biased, right?
Correct.
If you take one witness's statement, whether you like it or not, you write down what they told you, right?
Yes.
And did you get an opportunity to look at your report before you testified today?
I did.
Okay, did you find any mistakes in that report?
Just one.
Okay, you have that report in front of you, just
I
for
do.
the record?
Yes.
Okay, when you say that you found a mistake, what is the mistake that you found in your report?
On the, almost to the bottom there, it says that W1 told me that C1 was working on a location down the street. It should be AP1.
Okay, Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I'm looking at the right area and I'm looking at your proper report. So
Would you like to mark the report so that the record can be clear?
my report or the officers that he's using, Your Honor?
You can mark either one you wish to mark.
I'll mark mine. For the record's purposes, I'm gonna go ahead and mark this as Defense Exhibit 2. Deputy, is your report 4 pages long?
Well, not the written portion of it, but the report itself.
No.
No.
And is what I'm looking at here is Defense Exhibit 2. Does this seem to be a true and accurate depiction? I'll let you look at it, of your report.
That's not my report.
This is not your report?
No,
Let's
this
see
is
what
the auxiliary officer.
Okay, so you're not, you're Deputy Rutherford, correct? Okay, let me see what you're looking at. So we can make sure we're on the same page. We're looking at the assignment report. That's what you're using to refresh your memory, correct?
Yes, the supplemental report.
Okay, so the supplement report. So that's not the main report in this case, correct?
No, I was not the arresting officer.
Okay, so now let me mark this as Defense Exhibit 3. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm now going to show you what I have marked as Defense Exhibit 3. I want to make sure we're looking at the exact same report. Does this seem to accurately reflect the report that you're looking at?
Yes.
Okay, do you mind showing me on here where that mistake was that you found? And that's when you said, he told you that C1 was working and that should be AP1. Okay.
And that's referring to Roland Huerta, correct?
Correct.
Let's talk about when you arrive at the scene. When you get there, what's going on?
I made contact with the complainant and the witness,
Okay.
and they gave me their statements that are indicated in the report about the disturbance of location.
Okay. Were you the ones who was photographing the scene?
No,
Who arrived to take photographs of the scene?
that would have been after I left the scene.
Okay, did you call for a forensics guy or how does that happen? How did somebody else?
That's up to the arresting officer and the investigator.
Okay, so you weren't the arresting
I'm
officer.
not the arresting officer, no.
Do you know who the arresting officer was in this case?
That's Deputy Villarreal.
Deputy Villarreal. Okay, so Deputy Villarreal is the one who gets to decide whether or not, what would you call it? Is it a CSI? I know that's what SCPD calls it. What do you call it in the sheriff's office?
Yeah, that's our crime scene techs.
Okay, so the crime scene tech is the
Yeah.
one that comes out. Would it be the same crime scene tech who takes photographs, who could also get fingerprints off of items?
Yes,
Okay, that's not your responsibility though, correct?
no,
That would be for somebody else to do.
yes,
Would you agree with me that in a situation where there's contesting parties, that it would be important to get things like fingerprints?
depends on if there's a relevant to the investigation or if there was any surfaces the fingerprints could be looked at.
Okay, well, let's talk about that a little bit. You mentioned that you spoke with basically the parties in this case, right?
Yes,
And you had the brothers who were telling you Roland picked up a chainsaw and pointed it at them, right?
yes,
And then you had Roland telling you, no, they picked it up and pointed it at me, right?
Yes,
And it's fair to say that you're not there when it happens, right?
correct,
So you don't know what truly went down at the scene, right?
correct.
You're just trying to figure it out or just get the stories and see what happens from the evidence after them, right?
Yes,
And it'd be fair to say that when you have conflicting stories like that, we should get the best evidence that we can, right?
correct.
So that we can determine who's in fact telling us the truth,
Yes,
right? And like you mentioned, if we can get fingerprints, they should be got, right?
yes,
But you're not trained as a CSI, right?
no,
So you can't tell this jury whether or not they could find fingerprints on that chainsaw, right?
no,
But it is possible, right?
Objection, calls for speculation.
Sustained.
But you would agree with me that it's important to get those types, type of information, right?
possibly, yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, we should want to have all the evidence we can get, right? Not possibly, we should want that, right?
Right,
Did you go around to speak with any of the neighbors?
no,
Do you know if there was any of the neighbors who witnessed anything?
I don't know.
Okay, do you know if there was any cameras located at that house?
There was no cameras located at the house.
Okay, did you speak directly with the owner who told you that?
The owner showed up later, but yes, they did tell us there were no cameras there, and there was none visible at the time.
Okay, and did you check to see if any of the neighbors had any cameras that may have caught something?
No,
Okay, so you don't know if there was any videos or anything that may have been helpful?
no,
And we don't know because it's just something that you didn't ask for, correct?
yes,
You also didn't have a body camera, correct? At the
No.
time?
DCSO didn't have body cameras at the time.
Okay, so you weren't wearing them, right?
No,
And we don't have any dash cam footage from your interaction with anybody there either, correct?
no, there was no dash cam in the patrol car.
Okay, and none of these statements that were given to you by anybody were recorded via audio or video?
None of the statements given to me, no.
Okay, you agree with me at this day and age, especially even in 2018, that is something that's possible, right?
Possible, yes.
Okay, but in this situation, it was not done, right?
No.
Okay, have you ever taken a witness statement?
No, typically our investigators take those statements.
Okay, so you don't deal with the handwritten statements that they.
No.
Okay. When you talk with people in regards to getting their statement, do you tell them to like keep it short or don't tell me everything, just give me the most important parts?
No,
Let them tell you everything?
yes,
Okay. Do you think it's important when you're investigating assaults to get all the facts from the individuals?
yes.
And you wrote down all those facts, correct?
Everything that was told to me, yes.
Okay, so everything that was told to you is written down in this report, correct?
Yes,
And do you think it's important to note if somebody would have told you that they had been punched during an assault?
yes,
Whether it's in the face or in the back, do you think that's important?
yes.
In looking at your report, is it noted that anybody was punched?
No,
Okay, so were you ever told at the scene by anybody that they were punched?
not that I recall, no.
Okay, but you would have written that in your report, right?
I did, I would have,
Okay, and that's not in it, correct?
no.
Has to wait.
Statement.
When you spoke to the defendant, ROLAND, he told you that the victim, well, I guess, did he tell you the victim or the brother picked up the chainsaw?
He told me that the victim took the chainsaw.
Okay. Did he give you any details on how the alleged attack on him took place?
No,
Okay. Was it just a general, they attacked me with a chainsaw?
yes,
All right, this now we'll pass the witness.
Can I clear some things up there?
Yes.
When he told you that, did you ask him for more detail?
no, not at that time,
No, okay, so you just didn't have the opportunity to tell you more detail about what happened, right?
right,
I do have a question for you, Deputy. Do you speak Spanish?
no.
How were you able to communicate with the brothers?
They speak enough English and I do speak a little bit of Spanish, so we were able to communicate back and forth.
Okay, so you were just doing your best to try to get the story from them. That's the witness.
No further question.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
He's from the state.
Excuse from us.
You excuse, the rule has been invoked. What that means is that you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. You can speak to attorneys from the state and attorneys from the defense only. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
State, call your next witness.
The state called Deputy Bill Real.
Yes. Thank you. Take a seat, please, and raise your right hand. Well, do you stop, could you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that any testimony that you give today will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand. You can take a seat. And if you can state your name for the record, please.
Deputy Louis Burrell. Their kind of sheriff's office.
All right, state.
Thank you, Judge. Deputy Bill Real, how are you currently employed?
Say again?
How are you employed?
I'm a full-time patrol deputy, for their kind of sheriff's office. Signed up East Patrol.
Okay. How long have you been with BCSO?
Approximately 14 years total.
And are you also a certified peace officer?
Yes, sir.
What, I guess, as a patrol deputy, what are your duties?
Do detect and respond to calls from the community, patrol areas, check crime.
Were you on patrol in March of 2018?
Yes,
Do you recall responding to 25602 Broad Oak back then?
yeah, yes.
Okay, what were you dispatched out there for?
I went there for a disturbance.
Okay.
Progress.
When you got there, was another deputy already there?
Yes,
Who was that deputy?
deputy Rutherford.
Was the defendant Roland HUERTA already in custody when you got there?
Yes, he was defending back to patrol vehicle.
Okay. So when you got there, who was there besides Rutherford and the defendant?
It was the two complainants that were there. And that's pretty much all I can remember as far as outside of, me and my partner. So I think,
Okay. Did you also look at the, I guess, the crime scene?
yeah,
while you were there? Did you speak to the complainant and his brother?
yes,
Do you speak Spanish?
no,
Do they speak English?
yes,
Was it, I guess, would you say they were fluent in English?
enough to get have a conversation with him.
Okay, so you were able to get the details of what happened from them.
Yes,
I guess at any point, were there any issues with communicating with them? Like, did you understand 100% of what they said, and they understand 100% of what you said?
I mean, I would say, I don't know if they understood 100% as far as on their side, but I mean, I could understand what they were trying to get across to me with conversation I had with them.
Okay. And that Broad Oak Trail address, is that within Bear County?
Yes, yes,
Were there any cameras at that location?
no, sir.
And so you were told about an attack with a chainsaw, right?
Yes, sir.
And initially, the defendant accused them of stealing something from him.
Objection, Your Honor, to leading.
That'll be suspended.
Did the defendant accuse them of stealing something?
Yes,
Did they provide you or show you a receipt for the item?
yes, sir.
After you got everyone's version, I guess, do you recall if you spoke to the defendant?
I can't recall sitting there having a conversation with the defendant. I spoke to the complainant and I believe it's his brother. I may have spoken to him. I just don't recall the conversation.
Was your conversation with the complainant and the brother their version of what happened consistent with the evidence that you saw at the scene?
Yes.
Did you have any reason to doubt what they were telling you?
No.
At the end of your investigation, I guess, how did you come to be the reporting deputy?
I was in patrol training, I guess PTO program, and so I took the call because of the training aspect of it.
And so as the reporting deputy, is it your, I guess, job to make a determination as to whether or not you make an arrest?
Yes.
And based on the evidence that you had that day, March 5th, 2018, did you decide to arrest Roland Worker for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon?
Yes.
All right, at this time, we'll pass the witness.
Defense,
Proceed, Your Honor.
yes.
Deputy, how are you doing?
Good, sir.
Good. You mentioned when you responded to this call that you were on PTO.
Yes, sir.
So were you the one doing the training or the one being trained?
I was the one in training. I returned back to the county after I went to another agency.
Okay, and just for the jury's purposes, PTO means that you're being supervised while you're doing your job, right?
It is patrol training officer status is basically I'm being monitored by another deputy to ensure I can effectively perform my function.
Okay. Had you just become a deputy or what was going on?
I've been a deputy. I had to go to that PTO portion of patrol when I came back to county because I left and came back.
You left? Okay. Were you working law enforcement somewhere else?
Yes,
Okay. How long have you been a police officer?
since 2004.
Okay, so quite some time then, right?
Yes,
Okay, so you're familiar with, conducting investigations
yes,
and you understand how important it is to gather all the evidence in a case, right?
yes,
Because at the scene, what you're doing is establishing probable cause, right? To see if you've got enough to make an arrest, right?
yes,
It's not your job to decide whether or not, somebody's guilty or not, just whether or not you have enough to make an arrest, right, sir?
yes,
And so you were the arresting officer in this case, right? You wrote a report in this case,
yes, sir.
and you'd agree with me, you're trained and taught how to write these reports, right?
Yes, sir.
And you try to put as much detail in these reports because you write them pretty much right after these things happen, right?
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you get all the information in there that you can, right?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to be biased to one side or the other, right?
Yeah. No, I'm
And,
not something, but
Not supposed to be biased, correct? So you're just throwing everything in there and then you let, another investigator or officer decide that there needs to be more later, right? Were you the one who took pictures at the scene?
negative.
No. So did you call for a CSI or somebody to come out?
I did not call for the CSI, the detective.
So there was also a detective at the scene.
Yes, sir.
Do you
Well,
remember?
the detective showed up after.
Okay.
after
Do you know who called the detective?
I called the detective.
Do you remember the detective's name?
It was Detective Bowser, I believe.
Bowser? Bowser?
Bowser.
Do you know how to spell that just for the court reporter there?
Honestly, I don't. I have it written here. I can spell it from the private copy of my report here.
Excellent. Can I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes,
I just want to make sure that we're looking at the same report. Do you mind if I look at what you're looking at here?
Yes, sir.
Is this the report that you wrote?
Yes, sir.
Would you agree with me that what I'm looking at that's going to be marked as Defense Exhibit 4? Yes, absolutely. Does this match exactly what you're looking at here?
Yes, sir. The copy of the
And this is your report, right?
top one. I didn't include the whole thing. The top page was the same.
Okay, and that would be your narrative that you wrote, correct, on that third page?
So I just took everything. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure we're looking at the same thing, Deputy. So, like we mentioned, you write these reports shortly after you determine you're going to make an arrest, right?
Yes, sir.
Probably even that same night, right?
Yes.
And you'd agree with me that you put all the details that you think are important into that report, right?
Yes, sir.
Or not necessarily that you think are important, but just everything that's told to you, right?
For the most part, yes, sir. I mean, everything I can recall, I mean, we don't have, we can't go back and review it, but everything that I can remember and I'm told and I believe is pertinent to it, I'll write down in the report.
Well, let's talk about what you were investigating. You basically called to the scene for an assault, right? That's what you're investigating.
Yes.
To be determined whether it's aggravated or whatever the case may be later, but you're investigating an assault, right? And you'd agree with me that in investigating assaults, you're going to write down every form of contact that is told to you, right?
Yes, sir. Everything that I can recall, I'm already down.
Okay, well, it would be pretty important if somebody told you they were punched in the face, right?
I would say so, yeah. If somebody said they were punched in the face, I'd write that down.
Okay, or even if they were punched in the back, you would write that down.
Yes, sir.
If they were put in a headlock, you would write that down.
Yes, I would write that down.
Okay, and you'd agree with me that none of that is in your report though, right?
Yes, wasn't told that.
Nobody told you they were punched in the face, right?
No, the part that I was told I wrote down,
Okay.
I wouldn't know, I mean, there was no, I don't remember anybody telling me that they were punched in the face, just putting a headlock.
But you'd agree with me that that's important enough that you put that in.
Yes,
So it'd be safe to say that nobody told you that.
yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that you don't recall ever talking with Roland, right?
No, if I did, I mean, honestly, I couldn't have talked to him that much, I mean, at that point, because I would have definitely remembered at least the majority of it.
Or you would have put it in your report, right?
Yes.
He told you, and you'd agree with me that in your report, there's never once a mention of what Roland's side of the story was. Right?
Yes. No, I didn't question him, I didn't Mirandize him.
Okay.
So at that point, it's, you know, I don't know what point he was Mirandized, maybe he was Mirandized by the investigator, or they spoke to him. If I've already made a determination that he's under arrest, and I'm gonna Mirandize him, even I Mirandize him, and if I didn't Mirandize him, and I asked him those questions and he's already under arrest, it wouldn't be a disciplinary court.
Okay.
And, you know,
You'd agree with me, though, that at the time that you arrived, nobody's under arrest, right?
no, when I arrived, nobody's under arrest. I'm there just to, you know, I'm going into it for the most part from what's on the CAD system, so.
So you're kind of going into it blind,
Yes.
right? And you didn't see what happened, right?
No,
You weren't there,
No.
right? So you have to take people's words for what happened,
yes,
right? And it's very clear that you spoke with the brothers from your report, right? Majority of your statement is about what the brothers told you, right?
You're gonna have to- hold on,
Not so
Hold on,
clear.
hold on.
Oh.
You're gonna have to speak up and wait for him to finish.
And so that's a yes. It's clear that you spoke with the brothers, right?
yes,
And you'd agree that the majority of your report is about what the brothers told you.
yes,
Little to no mention, in fact, I'd say no mention of what Roland told you, right?
no,
And you don't know if anybody else spoke with Roland.
I do know that Deputy Rutherford spoke to defendant prior to my right.
Okay. And you don't know how much detail he got from him, right?
No,
Okay. Would you agree with me that it's important to get everybody's side of the story before making a determination of arrest?
to a certain extent, based on what you have, what you see and what you have seen.
Okay. In general, would you agree that it's important to get everybody's side of the story?
I think in general, it would be good.
You just didn't feel that it was that important in this case?
He was already questioned at that point. I had already placed him under arrest, so. I honestly don't remember the conversation I had with him.
Do you remember, at least from your report, that it was another officer who told you that you should place him under arrest?
No, it wasn't another officer that decided to place him under arrest. It was myself that placed him under arrest.
So when I look at your report and it says that after a place him under arrest, would that be incorrect?
So.
You can look at your report
Okay.
towards the last, I believe it's the second to last statement.
So yeah, that's what I wrote. Again, I had made a determination, I'm sorry.
I apologize, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, you got that.
And
All
I'm
right,
not
so,
beating,
so time out, everyone. So Brenna is an excellent court
I know.
reporter. She can take down 3 people at the same time, but we're not gonna put her in that situation. So what is gonna happen is a question is gonna be asked. The witness will be allowed to ask that question, and there will only be one person speaking at one time.
understood, Your Honor. Deputy, I'm not beating up on you. I know this was 4 years ago. I know it was a long time ago, okay? And I know you'd agree with me that you probably remember things a lot better that evening than you do today, right?
Yes,
And that's when you wrote your report, right?
yes,
Okay, so be fair to say you remember things that were told to you very clearly that night, right?
say it again, I'm sorry.
It'd be fair to say that you remember things very clearly that night when you were writing your report.
I was say it, yes.
So in your report, you'd agree with me that another officer completed her investigation and had you place Mr. Huerta under arrest.
Yes,
Do you-
I would say that. Okay, what's your question?
My question is, do you recall who that officer was that had you placed him under arrest?
It would be the detective that completed her, I guess, her interview. I guess what would be the correct thing to say would be take him into custody, transport him downtown. It's not everybody is arrested, like, per se, taken downtown at that point in time. If there's follow-up information that needs to come down the road, then a warrant may be issued at a later date based on what comes of that. So I guess a way to word that would be that not necessarily he was under arrest. When I say under arrest, I mean basically, I'm going to question him, but in my mind, he's already committed the offense as far as that portion of it goes.
Gotcha.
So it's more of a, do I take him down to the, I guess, I believe at the time we went to the magistrate's office. I don't know if we've been at the jail already yet, but it'd be more of a, do I take him now, or are we gonna, either way, it's gonna be brought up. But at the same time, it still needs to be, questioning him is gonna, I'm not gonna, I guess, questioning him without being Mirandized at that point wouldn't be in his favor either.
What I'm kind of getting at is that the investigation was completed at the scene, right?
I'm not quite sure on her end, whether it's completed or not. As far as on my end of writing down what happened, what I saw was done on my end, but on her end, it's just a matter of her saying, yes, go ahead and take him downtown and process him. Not necessarily you're under arrest, but it's, being charged. In other words, charges would be brought against you in my part. But you're innocent, he's innocent until proven guilty at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And by doing, we want to make sure we get that right.
Yes.
Right. Want to get all the evidence that we can to determine who's telling the truth, right?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that that was not your responsibility to gather all of that evidence?
Yes, I would.
Okay, would that have been the detective that arrived at the scene?
The detective would have the final say so. I mean, my on scene.
Is the detective the same as the CSI person?
No, sir.
Okay, so there would have been a detective who's gathering, I guess, what they can gather, and then a CSI who gathers what they can gather, right?
Yes, sir.
And the CSI can gather photographs, right?
Yes,
CSI can gather fingerprints.
yes,
Okay. Do you know if any of that stuff was gathered in this type of case?
yes, sir.
What was gathered?
From what I saw, photographs.
Okay. You don't know if any fingerprints were pulled off of anything?
I didn't stand there and watch him.
Okay. Okay.
Or, I'm sorry, CSI person.
You mentioned that the brothers were able to speak well enough English to you.
Yes, sir.
If you were not able to communicate with them, what would you have done?
I would get a Spanish translator.
Okay. But it didn't rise to the level of you feeling you needed a translator?
No, sir.
So they spoke English well enough to communicate.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
No further questions, Judge.
All right, since witness excused or subject for recall. All right, you're excused. The rule has been invoked. What that means, you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. Only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state of defense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're excused. Thank you. State, call your next witness.
There are no other witnesses, state rest.
All right, can I see the parties? All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard some evidence in this case. Remember, you're not allowed to deliberate or discuss this case amongst yourselves or with anyone. If you see something on the news, which I don't expect you will, but just if that were to happen, you're to turn it off, not paying any attention to it. Does everyone understand? So you're not to look at anything. The evidence about this case comes from inside this courtroom. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
All right, make sure that you keep your badges on because people will recognize you as jurors and then they'll know not to discuss anything because sometimes you'll have chatter maybe about other cases, not necessarily about this case, but be sure to keep those on. As I told you before, while we're doing this trial, I do have another docket. So I'm gonna give you all a slightly long lunch break. We're gonna come back at 2:30. There are different places. Yes, you're like, wow. I see you in the back like, wow, that's long lunch break. Yes, but that'll give you a chance to walk around to figure out which places are open. I know a lot of places have closed, but there are places within walking distance. There's the cafeteria downstairs and just different places throughout San Antonio. And maybe you have a chance to enjoy the river walk a little bit. But I expect for the testimony in this case to potentially end today, which would mean we may come back tomorrow for closing arguments and we'll go from there. All right, does everyone understand the court's instruction? Number one rule, no discussing, right? Okay, thank you. Everyone please rise for the jurors. All right, everyone, so we're gonna be back. You don't have to be seated. We're gonna be back at 2:30. And can you first be there?